welcome back to the latest episode of the Massive Unknown podcast. I'm your host, as always, Stephen Murphy, joined by the usual rugby crew of Westy and Sam. Here to talk a bit of four provinces rugby, a bit of Irish squad, and then obviously a bit of Australia versus New Zealand the weekend. Another great Southern Hemisphere game, which makes me want Ireland to just stop playing rugby, because why we bother? Why do we bother? But we'll get into that later on. Westy, Sam, how are you, boys?
Good, yeah. Happy to have full weekends of rugby back on the box. So not just one-off games or gold or finals rugby.
Gold, yeah.
Gold was great, but we're also not having to get up at like 6 a.m. to watch Southern Hemisphere rugby to get your fix. Having all day, one after another rugby, it was great.
Yeah, because the game was at 4 a.m. Sorry, this Australia New Zealand game. That was at 4 a.m. live on our time, but the replay was at 10 a.m. But I got up and I accidentally went on Twitter. But I was expecting to see, for the game that it was, I was expecting to see so much more tweets about it. But I actually seen none, so I successfully dodged the scoreline. But for the game that it was, I thought it was going to be absolute pandemonium. But
yeah, I scoreline dodged as well. But by the looks of it, a lot of people were tweeting as live at 11 o'clock when it kicked off on Sky. So I think like most of the Northern Hemisphere just went, you know what, we'll all just watch this on the replay as live instead of going for the like live 4 a.m. I don't think many people I know or follow on Twitter, because I avoided Twitter until after it. I don't think many people did actually watch it at 4 a.m.
The hardcores, Westy probably was up. Were you, Westy?
No, I wasn't. I was tempted to get up, and then I figured, no, I'd watch it the 10 o'clock replay. And actually, I didn't realize that like 10 o'clock wasn't the kickoff; it was the start of the coverage. But actually, I kind of like how they did the whole thing, as you said, like as live, and you kind of just get to experience it as you would have if you got up before.
Yeah, I would have liked to have known that before I promised the girlfriend it started at 10, and then she came down at 10:30 and still hadn't started yet.
Yeah, I actually benefit.
For next week.
I had hoovering to do, so I got it done between 10 and 11, and I got to watch the game. So all is well that ends well. But we'll get on to that later on. We're going to talk obviously the four provinces at the weekend. We had 3 wins and 1 loss. We'll not talk about the loss. We will actually, because it's our first game to cover, and it was Connacht with a poor night at the office for them. So Westy, we'll get started off. Just how are you feeling? Are you okay? Are you coping okay?
I don't know, man. I'm pretty upset about it. It was a tough blow at the time. No, I think we were in touch when the match started, and you said we'd be confident. And I think within the first 5-10 seconds, I kind of said I'm not confident anymore, just because of the way Cardiff came out of the blocks. I thought there was like to simplify it in my terms. I think there was a lot of individual, pretty strong performances from Connacht, but I think in terms of team unity, in terms of defensive shape, there was really just very little evidence of what we were trying to do.
Do you think that was shape, or do you think that was poor mistakes? Because I said to you, I was impressed with the shape. Sorry, my phone's having a conniption over here. I was impressed with the shape. It was the one-up missed tackles that I think cost us. I think actually, if you looked at it, like it was the same sort of shape that we had in that Ulster game and for the last few. And I think that it looks like it's on the way to somewhere, as opposed to it was all over the place, which in the last kind of year or so, I think our defense has just been all over the place.
I guess it's a bit of both, really. I mean, I do get that they're trying to implement a shape that's there, and it just doesn't seem to be coming off. But I think it's not coming off because I don't know if everyone's bought into it yet, or maybe that's not the right term. But everyone's not working hard enough. It's simple. I mean, one thing that's said in our training is there's always a solution until someone stops working, and we saw that with Connacht, because how many tries could Cardiff had Watt and their porch not got back and made a last-minute ditch tackle? Like, now, both of them missed tackles as well, in kind of further up the field throughout the game. So I just think our one-off tackling wasn't there. I think nearly every time Cardiff had the ball, they were going forward. They were making 5 or 10 yards each time. Our kind of scramble defense in the end held up a bit in the first half. But even, like, I've said on this podcast before, you can't go 50 minutes of a game without scoring any points and expect to win. Like, it's not going to happen. And even us forcing the yellow card and getting the try was a great kind of strategic counter, but that also burned 15 minutes of the first half where it took us to get the try. So I don't know. I just think Cardiff have always been a bit of an appeal team for us. They were more committed to it than we were, I think, on the day.
They took their chances more as well. Like Connacht had a good few chances, or at least territory in the opposition 22, and they always just came out empty-handed, and that's always demoralising, obviously, for the team. But Cardiff did a great job of nullifying sort of, Connacht's attack, and Bundy was quiet, and he got frustrated at the end. He kind of shouted at the ref a few times, and it was just kind of one of those days for him and the team. There was no real standout performances, I didn't think, on the Connacht side. But Sam, what do you think?
I don't agree there was no standout performances. I was pleasantly surprised with a few people. Thought Sammy Arnold was good. I thought Wooten looked lively again. Although Porch, unfortunately, was caught kind of maybe second guessing the system. He was caught out of position once or twice. Maybe it was the inside man not going, or whatever it was. And then I thought that on the whole we weren't overly great, but we had a lot of opportunities to do something. Like we were camped in their half and they kept us out, or camped in their 22 and they kept us out a couple of times. And you can't go to the 22 and not capitalize that many times and come away with any result. So that was really, really unfortunate. I was disappointed with not being able to capitalize on good position and possession. And then a few penalties that probably should have been taken, maybe just tip the scoreboard over. Not capitalizing on their yellow card, especially because of how good Dylan Lewis was in the game. I thought he was by far and away the best player on the pitch. He absolutely killed us at the breakdown. There was a few times when it was just turnovers. He was a machine. So when he was off, them scoring and us not getting back into it. So I think we scored one as soon as he went off, and then they scored again then. So it was just completely ruled out, the one we scored, and didn't allow us to capitalize on that yellow. Overall, it was pretty disappointing. I think the game itself the scoreline was a bit unfair on Connacht. I think it was a bit closer than it was. We lost the rugby green a few times. There was a few kind of open, messy moments that they capitalised on, and we didn't do the same down the other end. So, yeah, it was disappointing. Cardiff has been a bogey place for us to go. I know it wasn't in Cardiff, it was in Swansea, but it's been a bogey place for us to go the last few years. It'd be nice to sort of start trying to put to them. I thought they were impressive, though. I thought they were strong, quick, defended really well, they were smart. They attacked the breakdown when they needed to, and turned it over, forced penalties a fair bit. And then unlucky for the Sullivan yellow card, which just didn't help us because we were already dead on our feet at that point.
I think, like I've said it before about teams, and I think it kind of maybe feeds into what I was saying about us not being as organised as we could have been. When you lose two starting players in the first 15 minutes, all week you're starting, all week you're on the bench for a job to do. I think it does disrupt whatever we were trying to do. I think it was just really unfortunate. I mean, we should be able to recover. Definitely, we should be able to recover. But it does happen to teams better than us and worse than us, where they lose players early on, and it impacts our gameplay.
It's the two players as well. The position is so bad. Like it's so tough to take because you have it tactically written into most games that you're going to swap 2/3 or 3/3 of the front row within 60, probably around between 55 and 65. So they were never going to play the full game. But having your sub come on that early, Ainger came on and Delahunt came on. They didn't do badly. They weren't great. But like coming on for Heffo and Beelum, who were extremely experienced Connacht players now, have been both in the latest Ireland squad, both a few caps. Like that's a huge jump down just in terms of that moment in time. At 65, those swaps are fine. You bring on young lads with a lot of energy and you change the game that way. But for it to happen so early in the game, it was definitely a big blow for Connacht. It was disappointing to see, and you'd hope that Beelum and Heffo, I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but you'd hope that they're all right to go Ireland. Have we heard any reports or anything? Or
I haven't seen it. No, personally.
I haven't seen anything.
No, so yeah, the fingers crossed would be they'd still be okay for the Six Nations, because getting the call up was brilliant, and it was great to see so many Connacht players there. So you'd be devastated to see them miss out on it. Few injuries this weekend and a few red cards and stuff. So that Ireland squad might be changing quicker than we think.
Yeah, and I think the issue with Beelum and Heffernan going on is the quality going off is not close to the quality coming on. As in, there's a massive gap, I think, when it comes to Delahunt and Injure as well. So I think that's definitely an issue. So look, is it just a case now, Connacht, just chalk it off, bad night at the office and move on?
I think so. I think that's what you have to do with a game like that. Like we've never travelled well to Cardiff in the last few years anyway. Cardiff were good. So I was impressed with them, and they capitalised. They got a good result out of what was actually a closer game. And I think you just have to say that's done. That's behind us now, and we go back into the next one, because if you dwell on a result like that, an away result in Cardiff, you're gonna kill yourself in the long run. I think you chalk it off and you go back to not square one. You go back to the training pitch and you just work on what's needed. And you hope the likes of Heffernan and Beelum can come back in. So I wouldn't be too downhearted about it. You're going to get losses in the league. The bigger disappointment will probably be how lopsided the scoreline ended up being, as opposed to actually the score. You could have come away from that with a losing bonus point, and everyone would have said, yeah, fair result. I think that, if you watch the game, if you actually watch the game and not just the highlights, it was a lot closer than the scoreline would let you believe.
Yeah, I agree. We'll move on unless just want to cover Connacht. Take that as a no.
No, we can talk about it. We can keep going if you want. Like, don't offer that up to us.
Yeah, that's a good point. I should know from now on not to say that. We'll move on to Leinster versus Benetton. Benetton again, another really gutsy performance. I have to say, I'm really liking watching them play as well. They kind of string a nice few phases together. They've got a couple of nice players there. That Tabu Yara is an absolute monster on the pitch. But Ben Whitehouse is ref. How do we feel about Ben Whitehouse? Because I'm personally not a fan.
There's a name for him on Twitter. It's quite unfair, but Ben Whitehouse, and it's probably not too far away from how my feelings on him. I dread when we get drawn games that Ben Whitehouse is reffing. I don't want to be one of them podcasts where I say I don't like criticizing the referee, because everyone can listen back to the back catalogue and know that that's not true.
Unless it's a Connacht game, then
I'll criticize the referee, no problem. But I've said it a couple of times in the last few years. I don't think the standard refereeing in Pro14 is in any way decent. I think Nigel is probably the only one that you'd really trust. And you go to sports ground games and it could be any host of refs. You'd be disappointed. You'd be worried, because I don't think the standard is up there. I think that it's very, very poor standard refereeing in the league, and it needs to improve. But Ben Whitehouse isn't up to it, I don't think. Kind of seen him in the sports ground in the flesh a few times, and just stuff goes unnoticed. And Pro14 refs are also not helped by the fact that their touch judges just don't make any calls ever. There's plenty of knock-ons in rucks that touch judges can see full well, because people on the sideline are looking the same angle, and they don't call it. They don't notify refs, and stuff gets missed all the time. So, it's harsh to just say Ben Whitehouse is crap, because I think they're all crap, to be perfectly honest. But no, I'm not a fan of him as a ref.
I just think he's I think he's seen Nigel Owens, and he's like, I like that whole, the rigmarole around him, and the fact that he talks to players in certain ways. And I just think he's trying to be Nigel Owens personally. But, I've seen a lot of Leinster fans on Twitter weren't happy with his performance in this game. But Westy, are you a fan or not?
No, I kind of echo what Sam said. I mean, the competition isn't great, really, in terms of refs in the Pro 14. I do think, you can say what you want about him missing stuff, but, I don't know. My impression of the game was that kind of went both ways. I don't think it was, overly. Maybe there was a little bit of home team bias in that sense, but I don't think it was overly. Not as anti-Leinster as I would have been if I was reffing it. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I don't think the criticism of him is that he's biased. I think it's just that he's bad. I think it's like you say, he misses stuff both ways, and it happens all the time. There's games in the sports ground.
Consistent though, Sam. Consistently
missing things. And stuff. There's games we're at, Connacht Munster last year, remind me of this. Both teams were constantly clotheslining the other team, and nothing ever got called. It was it's like the refs had agreed to just waive the high tackle rule, and that happens. I just think he was. I think he was poor. I don't think he was particularly unfair towards Leinster, or against Leinster. I think he was just poor.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that because there was a lot of talk about him during the game. But game was pretty sluggish at the start, obviously probably due to weather conditions. But I think Benetton did a great job of not letting Leinster play. They kind of got up in their face. They were intense about it. They did a great job early on. Leinster obviously broke through, with a try in kind of 20 minutes with James Lowe and some nice footwork and all that. But Westy, Benetton really up at their game this season, it looks like, and I think they're going to catch a lot of teams off guard.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it last week that they kind of get a bit of unfair stick. I mean, they've been decent. Maybe, last year we can kind of write off a little bit, but the year before they had quite a strong finish. I think they're in the top three in their conference. And now they've had two really good performances against two of last year's finals. The real negative is that they haven't really managed to take anything away from it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they got 3 tries in both games. They didn't get the 4 tries in either game, and they were 8 or 9 or 10 points behind by the end of it. So it's kind of that's the kind of how you perform in this league, and I'll kind of reinforce this with my disappointment in Connacht. You really have to be taking points from these losses, and for Connacht to ship a bonus point win to a team in their conference is a lot more detrimental than it seems. Same for Treviso. They kind of really need to be picking up every bonus point they can. So to score 4 tries and lose by I can't remember, but 9 points, to be so close. And look, I completely backed them. They went for the jugular. They went for the try towards the end, and I love that about them. That's why I'll be kind of watching them a lot more keenly as the season goes on. Both games, they've really backed themselves to win, and I think I think anybody who's criticising the Italians' presence in the league really needs to watch Benetton a bit more closely.
Yeah, 100%. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, they've been good the last few years, and they've kind of, they don't have Leinster's number. Like, they haven't necessarily beaten them each time, but they've scared Leinster enough in the last couple of years. Even last season, they put up a fight. They're not an easy place to go, and I think that they will probably be in around the conversation come the end of this season in terms of going through to quarters or semis or whatever. I don't know what way the league is working this year, because we have the 2 conferences, but we have no South African team. So I don't know what they're going semis or quarters or how it's going to work, and European places and all that. But no, they're a really, really exciting team. I was so impressed by some of the running, some of the really hard, straight down your throat running that they were doing, and good ball play. I think the scoreline, like what Westy was saying, in this league, doing well in this league, a lot of times a losing bonus point away is a great result. You win your home games, you get your losing bonus points away, and they'll feel a loss to Leinster there. I know they were at home, but a loss to Leinster there, when they'd have got the losing bonus point, would have been so beneficial to them in the long run. And I think Leinster getting that try was like 78 minutes or 79 minutes, it was right at the death there. That will be a sickening blow for them. Not necessarily not winning or not, but just letting in that try at the end that takes the losing bonus point away from them. So, they didn't get the 4 tries, and they were outside of the 7. So that's disappointing. But they were very, very impressive, and kind of excited to watch them for the rest of the season outside of Connacht going there, because I think that'd be tough. I don't know. Do we go there this year? I haven't even seen the fixtures for the season. Everything's so kind of up in the air.
Yeah, but their maul wasn't very impressive. They scored 2 of the 3 tries off mauls, and Leinster couldn't stop them. Like, Leinster, both times legally, according to the referee, kind of tried to stop the maul and bring it down, and both times Benetton just kind of sidestepped it and kept on going, and the Leinster had no answer for it. So from a Leinster's point of view, that's probably worrying. We've seen them be kind of overpowered, obviously, when it comes to Saracen teams and stuff like that. So not great from that side of things. But
no, but I'd like to see that as a blueprint. I like the idea that Leinster aren't going to be indestructible this year. It'll make for a more interesting league. Like, one of the downsides,
they're 2 from 2, so they might.
No, but what I mean is, like, they've been gotten at now. Saracens have beaten them. Benetton didn't beat them, but they got at them. They've been gotten at, and other teams will see that and take a bit, like, if you look at, let's say, a Munster or an Ulster or an Ospreys or something, looking at Benetton doing it and going, okay, well, Benetton can do it, and we're a better team again, like Edinburgh as well. We're a better team again. Let's do the same thing they did, but a little bit better. Like, that's looking good for the league if Leinster aren't quite as, so far above everyone else. Like, last season, Leinster were 3 tries up in 10 minutes in most games last season, and they were out the gate, and you couldn't catch them. So the idea that Benetton put it to them like that, and other teams can take solace from that and take kind of a bit of initiative off it, it'd be really good for the league. So I like that, and fair play to Benetton for going for it and for trying it and for bullying them a little bit in the maul, like you said. They were big and they were strong and they ran hard, and it was great to watch. It was a really, really good game of rugby.
Yeah.
If you put it in context, like the last time Leinster came to Benetton, I just looked it up there, they won 18-0. So, that is, whether or not, I know it doesn't mean much because they didn't get any points from it, but it is it is improvement on the Treviso side. It is something to relish.
Yeah, obviously, I have to touch on the pretty bad news. Obviously, Larmour dislocated shoulder. He's going to be out by accordance, at least 10 weeks. And then Deegan as well is out for a few months. So that's pretty sad to see, obviously, coming into an international kind of stage of the year. Larmour's going to miss that, and so will Deegan, it looks like. So, look, we've never been that big of a fan of Larmour, obviously, but you never want to see someone get injured. So I didn't actually see it again. I didn't watch the game fully. I didn't get to see it live, but I didn't get to see it. So I don't know if it was, obviously it was bad, but did any of you guys get to see it?
I didn't see the knock itself, but I saw people come on with oxygen and stuff. And I think I was texting you guys. Did anybody see
Yeah,
what
you
happened?
are. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't
Just-
see what happened. You text me, and I was watching the game, but I was probably too busy looking at my phone or something. I'm absolute
Too
devil
busy
for it.
tweeting.
I'm a devil for being on Twitter during games and
Yeah, same here.
looking at the updates on the game I'm watching. Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't see the knock. But yeah, it wasn't nice to see the action brought on. You'd hope for a speedy recovery for him. It's a shame now, but it's going to open up a big question about the back three in the Irish squad in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
So.
We'll get on to that maybe towards the end of this podcast.
Yeah.
But we'll move on from the Leinster game, obviously. We'll go on to Munster versus Edinburgh. Munster named a pretty exciting team, like a pretty young team. You obviously had Ben Healy starting, Craig Casey, Wycherley, Tommy O'Donnell, Alex McHenry, Matt Gallagher started as well. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting to see how they get on, because sometimes when you get that injection of youth or new players, it can kind of really pump the team up and stuff like that. But again, Munster kind of looked sluggish earlier on, and it was actually kind of ironic from last week's game where Lee Halfpenny was just kicking points and keeping them in the game. It was Ben Healy this time for Munster who had kicked, I think he scored the first 18 points or whatever for the team. But he looks really good. He's a big unit, like he's 6'2", 6'3", or whatever he is, and I like that in the fly half because from the Ron O'Gara years with Ireland, it's not always fun to have a fly half, which the opposition 12 will just constantly run down the throat of and try to get, massacred. So it is nice to see a kind of a fly half with a bit of, size to him. And I love his attitude when it comes to the place kicking. He just puts it down, has a look, runs up and kicks it. There's no Johnny Wilkinson sort of stuff or anything like that. And it's refreshing to see. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it is refreshing to see. But
yeah, but when big companies like Adidas and Nike start sniffing around, you'll see he'll start to get something a bit more memorable, something you can put on a poster, like a dance. Like
you're so pessimistic, Sam.
The bigger bookie.
All them kickers who do all this shit. That all comes the more professional they get. Like when they're young lads, they can boot a ball from wherever, and then when the second they start being put on like programs and TV channels and billboards, they start getting all like have to do this, have to do that. Like so, I'm sure.
Ben Heath's going to be different. He's going to be shorter. He's going to have one step back and just kick it. That's what he's going to do. But yeah, Munster kind of early on, Westy again, kind of looking just a bit sluggish. They end up winning, obviously, which is, they're two from two here without really having played that well, which is just kind of classic Munster. They just dog it out. But a little bit better this week, I thought. What did you think?
I'll start by saying I thought that Edinburgh were very good. I mean, I thought they were very unlucky not to win it. Like, I really did think they seemed to have the better kind of run of the ball anyway, at least. But I think he's just really intelligent from Munster. Okay, like again, it's no fans in the stadium. It's not the way Munster fans want to see them win. But I think when you say going with a young team, I thought Craig Casey was very good again. And obviously, Ben Healy. Like I thought it was really smart from Munster. They kind of just managed to. And it's, again, look, we go back to Connacht. It's probably something we should take note from. Like they managed to stay in the game long enough to bring it down to the last few minutes, and that's all you really need to do.
Yeah. Well, Sam, what did you think?
Yeah, I wasn't hugely impressed with them. I thought that the 9-10 axis was very good. That I think he's doing Casey's doing really well, and I think that they're getting themselves kind of in a position with Ben Healy where people might stop talking about what's his name?
JJ.
No.
Carberry.
Carberry, jeez, the mind from there. I think people might stop talking about him for a couple of weeks, which would be beneficial for both their careers. I think he can step in, use this time to really cement his place in there, maybe as the backup, maybe as the 10, maybe Carberry at fullback, and allow Carberry to recover without that pressure of having to get in because Munster desperately need a 10. So it's nice to see him. He's kick smart. He's got a good attitude. He was getting ready for a kick before the decision to kick it was made last week. And then again, this week he kicks another game winner. So, that's only going to do the confidence well. Casey's
I think it's the
good.
Hair. I think the confidence it's in the hair.
It's the Samson hair, is it?
Stockdale cut his hair and he had a bad stretch for like a year and a half. Healy has to keep the hair. I'm calling it now.
And then Casey as well. With Murray's current form, like Casey's gonna be putting a marker down there in Munster anyway. And if he puts his marker down and he becomes the starting scrum half for Munster, someone will have to ask questions about how Murray's in the Irish squad. Like at some point,
the penny will drop and they'll be like, "Wait a second, what's going on here?"
Yeah, and then like I'm not one of those fans, it's like, oh, the Irish provinces all need to win. I'm not huge on the other provinces. I'm extremely biased when it comes to my thing, and I was a little disappointed that Munster managed to kind of snatch the win again, because I don't think they really deserved it this week or last week. They kept the scoreboard ticking over nicely and they stayed in it. And then, much as I say I was disappointed they got the win, I was delighted for CJ Stander to get the try, because I love CJ Stander. I think he's a brilliant player.
Great try as well.
Great try, yeah, really well worked. And they kind of, it looked like it had all broken down from the line out, but a couple of phases later they're back and they're driving on. So fair play to him for getting the try, and I'm glad for CJ Stander, because I think he's going to have a big part to play for Ireland in the next couple of weeks as well. So that was the upside to the Munster win. The downside was Munster won, but sure, we'll give him that.
I'd like to see all provinces win. He's absolute assholes. Well, I don't know.
Were
Wesley,
you playing
sorry. Apologies, Wesley.
Didn't have a chance yet.
He also hates Munster. He just doesn't want to say it on live radio.
I like all of the Irish provinces.
That's not true.
Yeah. Apart from one, maybe.
I like all of the Irish provinces that don't fit the rhyming scheme.
Are you counting London Irish as one of the 4 Irish provinces, is it?
No. Screw them. I don't care about London Irish.
Sam, stop trying to push your English bias in here.
I'd take London Irish. I'd take London Irish in like a Super Rugby Aotearoa style 5-team tournament.
No, I hate this debate of should the RFU buy London Irish?
Yeah.
No, fund the other provinces. Like, you've got surplus money. Like, how about
I think we should replace Connacht with London Irish, and then that's it. That was it. Movies over there. How about that? No, defense. Munster, back to Munster. Defensively, I thought they really need to up their game, especially in the first half. Wesley, I don't know if you noticed. A lot of poor tackling, soft tackling, like lads hopping off them. Yeah, it was
they
no
were
intensity
allowing
at all.
they were allowing team to come Edinburgh to come right down on top of them. Like they were standing on the gain line. There was no aggression in the defense, especially in their own 22. Edinburgh got 2 tries that were very simple for Edinburgh. Like they were in a position to score tries, they scored tries. That was like, it's one of those rare times when you're the 22 and it all just goes right for Edinburgh, because most were just standing waiting for them to come to them. I was really disappointed in that. I thought I was waiting for them to run up, rush defence the way they've always done against us, and throwing Carty off and not giving us any chance to play, and they didn't at all. I was so surprised by how soft and passive that was.
Westy, is that because it's a younger team that was out or not? They don't have Peter O'Mahony there as sort of as a leader. Is that because of that, or is it just one of those days?
Yeah, I think that might be it. I think I'd be surprised that CJ didn't kind of lead the charge in that sense. But yeah, look, it's early in the season. It's a young team. Doesn't have a lot of experience. Edinburgh have been strong in the last few years. But yeah, it was definitely strange. Like, they really did let Edinburgh build up ahead of steam, and they got the tries, as you say, without, like, neither of them were that difficult. I'm not saying they were easy tries, but they weren't, Yeah, I just think maybe it's a bit of inexperience. Lads a bit slow up off the line. Maybe. I mean, keep in mind these guys missed 2 days of training during the week as well, so they probably didn't have as much time to get that game plan, a defensive mindset in place that they should have.
True, yeah. So like this, Munster. We'll move on from Munster, but again, they're 2 wins from 2. You have to admire the mental strength that they have, but still not two performances that I would say not great. Room to improve. But we'll move on to Ulster, which I think was the most impressive display of all 4 provinces the weekend. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. They put some really nice play together. I know it's against Ospreys, but it's away, and Ulster's record away in this league has not been great. And again, sort of a nice young team kind of named out as well. And the Cooney Revenge Tour, which I am all here for. I've got front row seats. I absolutely love it. He's done a bit too much talking for my liking. He's kind of come out with a few like quotes and stuff like that, where I'm just like, Cooney's best thing to do here is just stay quiet, play amazing for Ulster, and then let the media and let the fans do the talking for him and ask those questions.
Or do what all the Ulster rugby players are doing, and where all rugby players are doing, just tweet vague inspirational quotes.
Yeah, quotes, yeah. That's what he's doing, though.
Oh, I know, yeah. That's in. Ferris is doing it. Heaslip's doing it. Cooney's doing it. They're all
Heaslip is a massive philosophizer as well.
Philosophizer.
I can't wait.
Didn't get a lot of traction. I thought I'd get more traction. I tried to call out Jeff Heaslip on Twitter.
He's tweeting like vague Google quotes. Like he's gonna start tweeting the jokes off the back of Penguin bars soon enough. Like.
Great jokes though. Great jokes. Fair. But yeah, Westy, do you agree? Ulster very impressive this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of thought that was going to be the more exciting of the 2 matches. So I started watching that. I actually had the laptop and the TV going, so I had both on at the same time. But and they were like, first off, you say Ospreys, but I mean, Ospreys is a great win in Edinburgh last weekend, so we're kind of starting to see a little bit of a resurgence from them. A lot of Welsh internationals on that team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Ulster was utterly dominant from the get-go. I thought Stockton had a very good game. Cooney again, kind of definitely back on an upward trajectory. Not quite at the level we saw him at pre-lockdown again, but I think definitely like you do look at that and say, sorry, why isn't he in the Ireland squad? Like, how can we not use that? And another thing, actually, I thought Madigan has improved a lot. I thought like kind of 2 or 3 weeks ago, you saw him. Now he still stands quite deep, but he did seem kind of very out of touch with how the game has been played. Seems to be kind of moving a little bit more in line with how it is now. I thought Ian Henderson was very good again, apart from the stupid red card at the end for like
and stupid.
Cost him now at Six Nations.
He gave us 2 penalties at the first half, end of the first half as well, when they would have went up. They would have went in 10-3 up, I think it was, or 10-6 up. Yeah, 10-3 up. And he gave away a stupid penalty at the end, off the ball, kind of blocking, and then they went in 10-6 at half time, which is just silly. And then that red card was really silly. Yeah. Sam, what do you think, Ulster?
Yeah, I watched the Leinster game on TV and then watched the Ulster one back yesterday. And no, very, very impressive. Glad to see Cooney taking the latest disappointing news kind of on a chin and playing well, because he played very well, and he took advantage of Wyn Jones being offside and everything. So that was brilliant. I thought the Henderson thing was scandalous. Didn't see the point in it at all. It was a big like black mark on the display as a whole. And then for his own sake, you think it's stupid, because look at the wealth of second rows that are coming through in Ireland now, even just Leinster ones if you want. But there's like Thornbury and Quinrue and Delan as well in the mix. And like Henderson's not guaranteed his Irish spot anymore, and doing stupid stuff like that's not going to help him. Like Baird's coming through and is supposedly the great white hope, and James Ryan is an unbelievable player. So, doing stupid things like that is going to cost you in the long run. I think that was a really, really poor decision from himself. I'm glad to see that Ulster kind of just did the business, because they weren't overly great the last couple of weeks. Coming back out of the lockdown, and the more Madigan plays, the better I think he'll get. I think he's a good player. You can see that, but he, like Wesley said, is probably just setting himself back a little deeper, just to give himself a bit more time to think and a little bit more time to play. From knowing Madigan in the past, you'd see he'd play right up on the gain line the way Sexton would, and he'd be quite aggressive in his play. But I think he's just toning it down a little bit to get more of a handle on it before he starts to kind of play his natural game. But no, it was good result.
Yeah, and Wesley touched on Stockdale, obviously back to kind of offensively anyway, looked like he's getting back towards his best, which is obviously great to see. Coming into the international break as well. I thought Coetzee again was probably the man of the match for Ulster. He is just so
Oh, he's ridiculously good. And then they might get blessed. South Africa might be pulling out of the rugby championship, which would be brilliant news for Ulster anyway, because that would allow him to play. Because if they go into the rugby championship, he'd be missing for a good portion of the year. And he's such an integral player to the way they play. He brings so much power from the back of that, and it gives Cooney such a platform, having Nate like that in front of you.
It's incredible. Some of the lines also were running were incredible. Like the Cooney's try, his scrum half line that he ran was just beautiful. Like he anticipated the whole way, and then has the jets to turn on and beat the man for pace. And even at the end there, Ulster held out. They were going to win the game anyway, but didn't want to concede a try late on, and you could see the intensity that they had, and the leaders kind of stepping up and really marching boys around, and all positives from that Ulster display. I think if you're an Ulster fan, that was, again, with a pinch of salt, not against one of the better teams in the league, but still, performance-wise and some of the stuff they did, I'd be very impressed. So,
the right trajectory, kind of in the inverse to us, where we looked like we had a kind of masterful game plan in the second half against Glasgow, and now look like we've taken a bit of a step backwards away to Cardiff. Ulster are steadily improving in each game they've played. I don't think you can doubt that, even including the end games of last season, last 2 months. They're definitely improving each time.
Yeah, 100%. Great to watch. Of all the 4 provinces up there, one of the best ones to watch actually play rugby. But we'll move on to Southern Hemisphere kind of side things. Obviously, we saw a great game on Sunday morning, New Zealand versus Australia. It was great to see a bit of international rugby again with a full crowd in attendance as well. You lucky.
Disappointingly, not actually full. There was a few spare seats that I was like, I would have taken that.
I know, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like nobody could travel from Australia to watch it, and you're obviously gonna have some people who are still like, well, I know there's no COVID anymore, but I don't want to go to a stadium with 80,000 people. Like,
and there's been crowds have been allowed for the last few months. It's not like us who are starved.
I hadn't even thought of that. Westie, there's no one's allowed to travel from Australia, so it's probably the most one-sided crowd you've ever.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think they struggled, like the TV broadcasters struggled to find Australians in the crowd when stuff went well. They're just like the odd person in a sea of black.
But I think we should start with Australia, because I think going to this game, I don't know if maybe you lads, but I thought after seeing the Australia team and the bench, I was like, this could be pretty one-sided, and because we've heard about the level of rugby in Australia hasn't been great the last year or two. And their performances haven't been spectacular, but they were brilliant. They were absolutely like phenomenal to watch. They were great defensively. They kind of stood up, matched, New Zealand physicality wise and everything. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. Like Westie, were you sort of similar thinking to me, or did you think that they were going to come out and do that?
Yeah, I was checking my phone. My brother texted me the night before and said, "Are you going to get up at 4 a.m?" And I said, "No." He's like, "How do you think it's going to go?" And I said, "Big AB win. It's a young Aussie team, lambs to the slaughter." It's exactly that is literally exactly what I have written down here.
I think that's what people were thinking, though. I think most people were thinking that.
No, and look, I had been watching a good bit of the Super Rugby AU as well, and there's definitely like there was definitely great performances. Falufa was brilliant. I do think James O'Connor, although I don't think he's a great 10, is a fantastic player.
Oh, I love James O'Connor.
He's definitely not a good 10, though.
I love him at 10. I think he's so exciting. I think
first centre, I think. Anyway, look, that's not the point. Let's not get into that. I just think that the aggression that came out of the blocks was so good. And I mean, there's only one burning question that I have after that game. Why did nobody go for a drop goal?
But is it just like, so obviously I was trying to think about this logically afterwards, and there was two theories I came up with. So one, obviously the weather was awful, so the pass has to be good, it has to be caught well, it has to drop on the foot nicely and all that sort of stuff. So, but then the second theory is, I'm trying to think back of when was the last time I watched like a last gasp drop goal winner internationally in a Southern Hemisphere game.
No, but they've started getting used to it with the Super Rugby Aotearoa rules and that. There was a few drop goals to win at the end of games.
Yeah, Gatlin's win the first game.
I thought this was the opportunity for New Zealand to show what they've been working on in training. But I don't know. I'm more disappointed that Australia didn't go for the drop goal, because they were in such a position. They were about 2 yards away from the line. James O'Connor could have stepped back into the pocket, and I don't know. Maybe there was a call made, but it looks to me like O'Connor bitched out of doing it. I can understand New Zealand not going for it because the weather was so bad. Like, Jordy Barrett couldn't hit the posts. Like, he couldn't hit the fucking barn door with a bag of cats. Like, it was terrible. The weather against them. But I think Australia it's more criminal that Australia didn't go for it than New Zealand, because they had the wind behind them. Hodges' kick traveled 70 meters.
That hit the post. Like, oh my God, my heart. Oh.
That definitely touched an All Black's hand after that. 100% Caleb Clark touched that ball.
Do you think?
100%.
Is that why none of them dived on it? Because I was standing there going, what's happening? Why
they were saying, the commentators were saying, All Black shouldn't touch that. It definitely looked like Caleb Clark touched that. I'll have to watch it back, but I was convinced he did the time, because he would have been offside. And then the most ridiculous 9 minutes unfolded in front of our eyes, and we watched this back and forth where two teams refused to drop goal because they're both so thick that they're both ignorant enough that they're like, we're not losing this game.
Yeah, I think I read that the ball changed possession like 11 times in that 9 minutes. It was back and forth. There was about 3 knock-ons that if the team that knocked it on had dived on it, it would have been game over. The ref could have blown a whistle. There was a penalty kicked for a line out. There was some brilliant play. Both teams were within 2 meters of the line during the 9 minutes. It was ridiculous. And then it was a draw.
I know.
A fucking draw.
What about, can I rewind this for a second? Can we talk about what happened on the break of halftime to Rico Ioni?
Oh my God, yeah.
What in the day? Just put the fucking ball down.
That was poor. That was
not a complicated sport, what it is, but that's not a complicated part of it.
That part isn't complicated, yeah.
He's knocked it on, which can cost them. Geordie's missed about 3 penalties, which could have cost them. James O'Connor missed 4 out of 5, which could have cost them. So, both teams are sitting there in the dressing room thinking that it's been robbed from them because of a few missed opportunities. Like, it was such a tight game. Like you said earlier, Smurf, like, did we think Australia had any chance? It was like, from watching the Super Rugby AU, no. From watching the squad, no. The only chance I thought they might have was listening to the commentators before when they were talking about Rennie and how well respected he is and his experience of coaching in Glasgow and his experience of coaching in New Zealand. I kind of went, okay, maybe he's going to do something with them and we'll see something interesting. I did not think that doing something was them going to be, 9 minutes into extra time, nearly winning the game.
Yeah.
I thought the do something was not be disgraced. So I was massively impressed. I'm excited. 3 more games they have to play, or is it 2 more? I can never remember.
Yeah, they're doing 4 this year.
Yeah, 4. So like happy days. The next couple of weekends. Now I'm set.
Yeah, I have 3 points to bring up. First one is that denim shirt that the All Blacks are wearing is absolutely awful, and they need to bin that immediately.
Okay, you're wrong. That denim shirt is badass.
It's so bad. So bad.
I saw Johnny Cash wearing it and walk the line, and it's so still cool.
Yeah, which was like 40 years ago. Times moved on. Let's over. Like, I don't care what sponsorship deal or much money you're getting for it. Bin that immediately. Second one is Nick White, best scrum half in the world. I think we're all agreed. And then thirdly is, I have a question for Bodie, is the Nick White where at the end where the ball was sort of illegally knocked back by an All Blacks player, or Mackenzie popped it out, I think it was. He dives on it and pops it up in the most ridiculous pass of all time for Australia to score a try. My question is to you, name one person on the Irish squad that could do that or would do it.
Kieran Marmion.
No, wrong. No.
I think Marmo could do it.
Not on the squad.
What?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's different. Totally different.
Scrum half.
Sam, stop. You're not. No.
I'm arguing. You asked me for an argument. I'm arguing. As scrum halves, I think Marmo and Cooney are both capable of doing it. I think anyone that's played ever under Joe Schmidt would not ever do it because that sort of inventiveness and having fun playing rugby doesn't exist in players that have played under Joe Schmidt. It's unfortunate.
It doesn't exist currently
when Brian O'Driscoll retired, the last bit of creativity seeped out of Irish rugby.
You can't say currently. They haven't played a match in 7 months. Like, what do you know about currently? Like,
from the first,
you have no idea.
From the first 4 games of the Six Nations, did you see anything that would have even
Ireland, Italy in Dublin in 2 weeks' time is going to be offload scene.
I'm going to throw this one at you.
First.
I'm going to throw this one at you. If the ball was lying on the ground like it was, and you wanted me to pick one player that I think would do that, I'm going to say Dennis Buckley, because that chap is so good as a stand-in scrum half. Whenever the scrum half is pulled into the ruck, Buckley gets it, and it's always a massive whip. That's
a ridiculous statement to make, and I do not appreciate it on this podcast.
Next time there's a ruck and you see this scrum half get pulled into it, the first player there, he always loves being the stand-in scrum half, is Buckley, and he throws a big whip out the back line. There's no chance it's going 2 yards to another prop.
I'm talking about the 78 minutes of an All Blacks New Zealand or Australia game with the game on the line, not when the scrum half's not available at some ruck in a Pro14 game.
Give Buckley the chance. Buckley just needs the opportunity. Just saying.
I don't see why not. But just incredible play. The way they play the game and the intensity, it's just so much different. But
it was all, the game itself was all Australia, really. Like, New Zealand had heck all possession. Like, it was, I don't know the actual stats, but like.
Yeah, I thought the new guys for All Blacks did pretty. I thought Cal Clark came on and was absolutely monstrous.
Yeah.
He's just incredible. Satutu come on and made kind of an impact.
Satutu come on and confirmed that he is an All Black and he's not going to move to Wigan Warriors and play for England.
Thank God. I think we're all happy. Well, maybe not you, Sam, but me and Westy are very much happy about that situation. But yeah, looking forward to those kind of couple of games coming up again, because I think the All Blacks will kick on now a little bit. First game back in like 7 months or something ridiculous. So they will kick on from that, and I think Australia just don't have. Well, am I wrong? Do you think Australia can surprise us again?
Definitely, yeah. I think if Australia continue to play, like they have an entirely new coaching setup. Just because their domestic league wasn't as good as New Zealand's domestic league doesn't mean that the accumulation of players in an international setup can't surprise you. Good management is good management. Those players all have ability. Like, we know James O'Connor is a talented rugby player. Now it's just time to harness that. So
I think you're higher on James O'Connor than I am personally.
I'm so high on James O'Connor. Always have been. One of my favourite players.
James O'Connor was high flat of his career. So
we're not talking Quade Cooper here, Rusty. We're talking James O'Connor.
I think
Yeah, I know.
they put up a stat during the game. His career, like he's a career 60% field or penalty kicker. I was like, that's not good. Personally, I don't think that's good.
Yeah, he's not a 10.
No, he's not exactly. So, and
he was kicking a lot. He was kicking a lot very early on, which is going to skew those stats. Like a lot of players, like he was kicking from fullback early on in his Australia career, which is going to skew your stats. If you get your average 10 coming in.
What's going to skew your stats is getting 1 out of 5 at the weekend.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and I agree with that. But I'm just saying that he was playing from fullback as a very, very young player, coming in taking kicks that were there. No need for that pressure to be put on a young fullback. Like other 10s start their career or start actually kicking regularly for their international team at 25, 26 from out half, whereas he was playing from how old was he when he made his Australia debut? He was like 18,
14.
14.
So I think he's a brilliant player, and I really hope
I disagree, but we'll see. I'm happy to be wrong. But all right, boys, I think we've talked enough rugby for this, but we'll do it again next week. Hopefully, another 4 provinces win this week. International break. So we'll see what we can do, but we might do an Irish squad one because there's plenty to talk about when it comes to that. So we'll take it up back then. Boys, appreciate it as always. So I'll chat to you soon.
Bye.
See you guys.